Welcome, everybody, to the first fireside chat. We have a great group of individuals, all key stakeholders to the Warrington College of Business, as well as the UF MBA program, and making this a fantastic experience. So hopefully after watching this, you all will have more insight about what it's like to be a Warrington and a UF MBA student. I am here with some fantastic teammates that make this experience all possible. I'm going to first start off by introducing the Dean for the Warrington College of Business. We have Sabi Mitra on. We also have our Assistant Dean and Director of the UF MBA program, John Gresley, which you'll hear from here momentarily. We also have our Director of Student Affairs, Sarah Carlson. And then, of course, Carly Eskew, who is our Director of Career Services. And I am Naz Aranguch, the Director of Admissions. So I will be leading us through a fantastic conversation today. And hopefully, like I said, throughout this session, you get more insight about what we offer here at the Warrington College of Business and why getting an MBA is so valuable. So let's kind of kick things off. And Sabi, do you mind, you're going to be the first one. I'm going to ask questions too. Do you mind giving us more insight as to what drew you to the Warrington College of Business, given you're kind of the newest member to this group right here?
Sure, Naz. As you know, I came here a little over a year back, and I spent 27 years at Georgia Tech. The move to UF was a real no-brainer for me. First of all, I knew about the reputation of our faculty. It's easy to see that from outside. They're just amazing research profiles, amazing profile in the academic world. And I knew that they were real true experts in their discipline. I also saw that the program reputation has been on the rise. We are very proud of our rankings and the profile of our programs. And if you look back over the years, it's been on the rise, and it's great to be associated with a university that is on that upward trajectory. So that was very important for me as well. And, since I've come here, I have just been amazed by the exceptional staff that we have in the college. Obviously, you cannot see it from outside. You got to interact with them to really understand what I'm talking about. But that's just been an amazing experience for me in the last 1 year. And also, being the flagship in a large and growing state like Florida, which is the third largest state in the country after California and Texas, I knew that we had exceptional students as well. I often joke with them that it's harder to get into UF as a student than to come here as a dean. And there is a lot of truth in that. We have exceptional students. And one thing which has really enthused me since I've come here is the commitment of our alumni. I cannot tell you how many people I've talked to who have told me, when I typically ask them why they contribute to the Warrington College, why they want to be involved with us. And I typically hear back the same answer, which is UF and Warrington changed my life. I would not be where I am today without UF. And that's why I want to give back. I want to contribute. So those are some of the reasons which drew me to UF.
Awesome. Now, thinking about, looking forward as the new dean, what are some of the big initiatives on your mind?
Big initiatives. So I have 3 that I can share with you. And, there are lots of initiatives that we have in place, but these 3 are sort of top of mind for me. The first is AI and analytics. If you know, obviously, but for some of our listeners, if they go to the UF website and look at the UF AI initiative, they'll see that it started about a little more than a year back with a large gift from NVIDIA, as well as some private donations and a lot of state support. And the UF AI initiative, one of the distinguishing features of that is that it's focused on the application of AI, not on the technology of AI. In other words, what do I do with this in finance, in marketing, in pharmacy, in medicine, in agriculture? How do I use this? And that's where the Warrington College comes in. It's a really big part of the UF AI initiative. Our focus is obviously on the application of AI in various aspects of business, whether it's finance, accounting, marketing, or management. We already had a very large faculty base which focused on AI and analytics even before this initiative. But with this initiative, we have aggressively hired and built on this area, and we are in the process of completely changing our curriculum to focus on the application of AI in business. So that's one big initiative that I have in mind that I think is going to be very prominent for us in the future. The second is that we want to deepen our connections with the corporate world even more. We already have great connections. You'll hear from some of our career services folks in the team here. And one of the things we have done is we have leveraged our advisory board, which has C-level business leaders from key companies in Florida and beyond to help us in this process. And we want to partner with companies. We are already partnering with many companies for student projects, for professional development, for internship, for placement, but also for research partnerships. So we don't want it to be one-dimensional, this partnership with corporate America. We want it to be multidimensional. We want it to be deep. And by doing that, I think they are more likely to engage with our students, to provide projects to our students, and it will have benefits all around for everybody in our team. And then the third initiative I have in mind among many is our focus on diversity and equity and inclusion. I think it's really important for us for many reasons. First of all, it's the right thing to do. But even beyond that, universities prepare students for the real world. And the real world, as you know, Naz, is diverse. And our recruiters, our stakeholders, even our students expect us to be diverse. And the education that our students receive will also improve with diversity. So that's why it's a key initiative for us as well. But as I mentioned before, Naz, we have many other initiatives in place as well.
Great. No, thank you. And I love those kind of three big initiatives that you shared. Thank you. Now, I'm going to turn things over to John. John, do you mind giving our listeners a little bit more insight about the UFMBA program? I know we launched our program back in 1946, but can you shed some light on the evolution of our program and what our portfolio entails?
Absolutely. Thanks, Naz. So as you mentioned, our full-time program has been around for a long time. We were excited in that first program to welcome 2 MBA grads, so we've come a long way, graduating now more than almost 400 students a year from our variety of different programs. But like many schools out there, we had a full-time program well into the 1990s, at which point we added an executive MBA cohort, and that was a pretty common thing for programs across the country to do at that point, as they began to see a market for more leadership training and education. That was followed pretty closely in the market by professional MBA programs, which were that sort of spot in between the executive program and the full-time program, which was graduating folks with 2 or 3 years of work experience or less. Florida was an innovator then in the late 90s in adding an online version of that professional program in 1999. So by the end of 1999, we had 4 different formats, right? The full-time program, the executive program, the professional program on the weekends, and then our online program, which was a fully online version of our professional program, where you come to campus once a month or once a term, I guess, at the beginning and the end of the term, to give you some connection to campus and to really put some experience behind what was an otherwise online program in a world that was kind of a wild west in terms of online education. So that was the big innovation for us there in 1999, and we did that. We've been doing that now for over 20 years. And then in the mid aughts, we added a satellite facility in South Florida, realizing there was a lot of interest and population. As Sabi mentioned, Florida is a large state in the South Florida area, and we figured out that it was more economical for us and for the students to offer a program directly from a space down in South Florida. So we started out in a temporary space, and we've had a physical dedicated facility down there since 2010. So almost 12 years now that we've been in that market, where students can come and go to weekend classes without having to leave their home market. So we are innovative in the sense that we've got a variety of formats that are designed to meet students kind of where they are in terms of what they're seeking from an educational experience, and we're certainly consistent with a lot of our big name peers out there and offering a variety of different ways to do that.
Great. Now, I know that Sabi just talked about his, the big kind of 3 initiatives that he's focusing on. Now, taking some of that, do you mind providing some insight about, what does an MBA add to the global business landscape?
Yeah, I think that, in considering a question like this, the thing that always comes back to me is the only constant in life is change, right? And so if we look at the last 5 years, the last 10 years, the last 20 years, I mean, pick a timeline, you can point to 2 or 3 major economic or global factors that have really influenced the way that the world as we know it is shaped. And obviously, in the midst or sort of whatever we are in the stage of this global pandemic, there's just a lot of things out there that are bombarding business leaders and individuals as they try and navigate the world. And I think there's a lot of value in an MBA as a decision-making tool and as a critical thinking tool. And it's really easy to pigeonhole the MBA as a business degree, and that's often what happens, right? And there are certainly some really bad business headlines out there that ruin it for everybody. But the reality is that there are all kinds of businesses. They're all, from large Fortune 50 companies to small independent mom and pop shops where folks are making business decisions every day. They're using critical thinking skills. They're using the ideas that we have encompassed in an MBA to make themselves successful and to provide a life for themselves and their family or whoever it is that they support. And so when I think about the MBA, that's really how I think about it. It's easy to connect that to a CEO position, but a lot of times there's a lot of value in being able to see the world for what it is, which is a series of decision points on any given day that involve finance, they involve working with other people, they involve managing the resources at your disposal, and all of those things can be managed through some of the academic experiences that we have here at the University of Florida Warrington College of Business. You can also see those things in our experiential learning courses and our student group activities with the MBA Association. We're really doing all sorts of things that bring our academic concepts and our core business disciplines to life for folks so that when they move on beyond the walls, they're ready to make those decisions for their companies and for themselves and for their communities that they're a part of. And so when I look at what the MBA will do for somebody both now and in the future, I think it gives you the tools to move in a world that's constantly changing. And it's like that old adage that if you're not changing, you're essentially falling behind. And so the MBA really is a great way to get skills and to see the world in a way that'll help you respond to what's coming, even if you don't know what that might be today.
Okay, great. Now I'm going to turn things over to Sarah. And Sarah, do you mind shedding some light on the actual MBA formats? Because if these, if people who are listening today are unsure about what we have to specifically to offer a full-time candidate, do you mind giving them more insight about, what we have?
Sure, I'd be happy to. I think when most students begin researching MBA programs, they find themselves looking first and foremost at traditional full-time MBA programs, which as we mostly know, they run 2 years, open to students from any type of background. We have students who maybe have some business experience and acumen, whether it be academic or in the workplace, and others who come from hard sciences, technical, liberal arts, performing arts, you name it, and have never taken a business class before. And the 2-year program really sets students up for success because their first year, students are taking a lot of the core foundational courses that every MBA student is expected to, come out with some familiarity. And then the summer in between a year 1 and year 2 program, students are often taking part in an immersive internship experience. Really to kind of test drive, if you will, some of the types of roles in companies and hopefully end up with an opportunity for post-graduation. And they return for their second year to kind of fine tune their academics with some elective courses and concentration courses. So that 2-year traditional program runs for 48 credits and attracts a good number of students. But we also offer some more shortened accelerated programs, of which one of them is a 12-month program that is also 48 credits. So it's the same amount of credits jam-packed into 12 months of accelerated fun here in Gainesville, where students from, again, any background can participate, any undergraduate degree. These are students who probably don't need the internship necessarily to launch their next career step. They're coming in maybe with some more substantive resume experience and really probably a pretty clear-cut understanding as to where they see themselves post-MBA. So it allows students to come in, only take that 1 year away from the workplace as opposed to 2, and walk away with an MBA at the end of the day. And the most shortened format we offer rather, is our 10-month business majors program and 1-year program. It's shorter in length, 10 months, shorter in credits, only 32, because it's only open to students who have previously completed an undergraduate degree in a business discipline. So those students don't have to repeat the foundational courses such as Intro to Marketing and Finance, assuming that they had them at their undergraduate institution. And therefore, they're able to kind of start off right off the bat in the MBA with some capstone courses, some leadership courses, but then also really spend more time fine-tuning their experience with those electives and concentration courses that are available to all students.
Okay, great. And for those of you all listening, in case you're curious what our average class size looks like for all 3 of these programs, typical 2-year program, we're bringing in about 30-35 students, and then our 1-year programs that Sarah just alluded to, about a dozen. So they're fairly small, but that's deliberate. And in fact, I'm going to ask Carly this next question. So, when you're thinking about the program, 1 year versus 2 year, I know Sarah touched up on this, but how does a candidate decide ultimately, what they think would maybe from the career perspective be best for them?
Thanks, Naz. I appreciate this question. So echoing what Sarah offered, I would say candidates who target the 1-year program successfully tend to understand kind of exactly what might be next for them post MBA. They're not using the MBA experience to soul search by any means. They kind of have a clear direction of how their former experience will translate into a new role. Not to say that you couldn't switch functions via a 1-year program, but you have to have a very early indication that that's what you're trying to do via the 1-year program. But the good news is we had members of our admissions committee on this call right now. Our admissions committee also helps via the interview process to kind of designate which format is appropriate for which applicant. And so there's no separate process, as you will know. I'm sure you can elaborate on this even more clearly, but sometimes by applying and talking to us one-on-one through the process, we are involved in all those interview conversations. Someone could, take a piece of information and say, okay, no, I think I really want to do the 1-year program, or perhaps I do want to do the 2-year program. So we offer that tailored, customized approach even from the admission cycle. And so sometimes you end up kind of going through our process and trying to figure out exactly which format might be best for you based on Naz's feedback or the rest of the admissions committee feedback, and you don't have to apply again to a different format.
Great. Now, Sarah, I'm going to pivot back to you and asking a question, because I know you touched up a little bit about the customizing of the MBA experience. Can you talk a little bit about the various concentrations that we offer?
Sure. I think we are really setting up our students for a lot of opportunities here at the Huff Graduate School, because we have the benefit of sharing electives across some of the other specialized master's programs, including information systems, operations management, marketing, you name it. And because of that, our MBA students really have access to a wealth of different electives, of some which we've packaged nicely into concentration areas. So we offer 6 unique concentrations right now that a student can complete during their time in the MBA program. And they include real estate, finance, marketing, human capital, supply chain, and the newest one is business analytics, kind of piggybacking on what Dean Mitra mentioned with regards to AI and using that across business functions.
Great. Now, this is a question that I'm going to open up to the 4 of you. If we have a listener that's debating between a specialized master's degree in one of these respective areas that Sarah was just referencing, or an MBA, can you maybe just give your suggestion on how you make that determination as to which route you go? John, do you want to start first, or Sabi?
Sure, I can take a stab. John, do you want to go first?
Go ahead.
All right. The difference between a specialized master's and a MBA is really the difference between breadth and depth. And if you think of an MBA, the program is really about breadth. It's not about depth. And what that helps you do is it helps you break out of a silo that you may be in. So perhaps you've always worked in accounting, but you want to move more to a general manager level. You want to broaden your horizons, and an MBA is perfect for that. The other advantage of an MBA, and by the way, there's a real place for a specialized master's as well, but it's just a different depth focus in that program. The other difference in a MBA is the case-based approach. You'll probably see many more case-based courses in an MBA. And I think a case-based approach teaches you how to think on your feet, how to sort of answer the question, what would you do in that situation? And not only answer that question, but to communicate it effectively. So it's a great practice for a business meeting. You're put in that situation every day. And then there's a lot more, I believe, of teamwork and working with others, because nothing of value that you do in the real world, you will do alone. Everything that you do of value in the real world you'll be working in teams. And one last point is that you're likely to have people with much more work experience in an MBA program than in a specialized master's program. We have certain work experience requirements typically for most of our MBA, including the full-time MBA. And therefore, the cohort tends to be more experienced, and they bring that experience into the classroom as well.
Perfect. Thank you. I didn't know if
John?
anybody.
That's a great summation, and I don't have a lot to add. I think where you are in your professional journey does matter quite a bit there too. And so typically we see a much younger student in the specialized master's programs. A lot of them, although not all of them, are typically in combination degree programs with our undergraduate business school. And so there's something to be said for what the credential is and how much experience you have. And Dean Mitra mentioned that there toward the end, but you don't want to come out, of a early educational experience with very little work experience and a big credential like an MBA. Just like you probably don't have 15 years of work experience in a specialized master's, because the jobs that you're going to be looking for are likely going to be expecting a different level of experience based on the degree that you have. And that goes back to something that Carly mentioned earlier about you kind of got to know why you want to get the degree. And so to your point about, how would you make that decision? I think it's an honesty question of where are you at in your arc and what are you trying to do? And if you're ready to become a subject matter expert and to get yourself a really good first or second role to really kind of start your career, I think a specialized master's program is a great place to be. If you've been doing something as an expert for a couple of years, or you've gotten a lot of experience with a variety of topics, but you've managed a bunch of projects and people, then an MBA is a much more appealing opportunity for you educationally in terms of aligning what's likely going to be there for you after you graduate from the degree.
Naz, I'll just add too, as a former career coach for specialized master's programs and now career coach for full-time MBA students, I couldn't agree more with what Dean Mitra and John have indicated about stage and career. But what's really interesting about the Warrington ecosystem is that it doesn't have to be an or decision. So actually, when you think about what John said earlier about folks going straight through from undergrad into one of our specialized master's degrees, they see some of the full-time MBA students on campus and hear about, what career opportunities those students may be pursuing. And that's kind of in the back of their mind when they're going out and working for a couple of 3 years and decide, okay, now I'm ready to go and take that step into moving into a more either a cross-functional role or a broader, more breadth kind of oriented role, as Dean Mitra indicated. And so I've definitely personally witnessed folks who've come out of a specialized master's program, work for a couple or 3 years, come back and start engaging our admissions team for the full-time MBA program, since we do require full-time work experience for the MBA. So just wanted to add, it wasn't necessarily an or decision for folks within the Warrington ecosystem even.
Oh, that's great. Thank you, Carly. And for all of you listening, and just so you know, in terms of the admissions requirements, we do require a minimum of 2 years of prior professional experience. Post-baccalaureate experience is preferred, but that's where we encourage you to kind of think about how an MBA can help you, and part of that conversation, the admissions process, is getting the insight from all the team members to determine how this fits into your larger plan. So a lot of the questions that I'm sure prospective students have are also about the actual MBA experience. And of course, the classroom experience is one of those things. But Sarah, can you touch up on all of the co-curricular, all of the outside of the classroom experiences that we offer our MBA students?
Sure. Well, you mentioned earlier the size of our cohorts, and I think because we are a pretty student-centered program and a program that's really driven by the interests of the students, you'll find that our students are very involved in the time that they're here, whether it be a 10-month or a 2-year. We have a host of different clubs and organizations, some that align with functional areas and marketing club, finance club, what have you. But we also have special interest groups, and of course, our diversity, equity, and inclusion groups that continue to expand and be very active on campus. I think one of the things that's great about the co-curricular opportunities is they're very fluid in the sense that when you're an undergraduate student, I think it's really common to join one group and you go to every event and you go to every meeting, versus here you'll find our students, there could be something one week that one club is offering, the next week there's a speaker that another organization on campus is offering, and our students really, they just want to maximize their time here, so they kind of will take advantage of all that. And you can't forget that we're in Gainesville, which is a great college town, and a great, amazing state with opportunities, whether it be athletics, cultural, music, what have you. So even if it's not sponsored by the MBA, it's certainly something a UF student that you can take advantage of while you're here.
Perfect. Now, I know that as part of the MBA experience, we also have a number of students that will participate in things such as professional development, as well as experiential learning coursework. Do you mind sharing a little bit about what those opportunities also look like?
Sure. I mentioned a little bit a second ago that we're a student-driven program in the sense that we can be, somewhat responsive to student interests and even gaps. And I think we do a fairly good job collaborating on the student affairs team with career services and with our students to identify, are there technical skills that we can offer continued workshops or advanced certifications, perhaps whether they be online, evenings, weekends, what have you. Are there speakers that we can bring in or additional workshops that support them on their personal growth and their professional growth while we're here? I could list some of the workshops that we offer and some of the certification courses, but really we continue to just expand upon those. And our students help drive some of that, but our whole engagement team that runs the professional development experience for our students, they really are now a well-oiled machine that we are now offering a lot of programs just on routine. Lean Six Sigma is one of them. Microsoft Excel certification is one of them. And the list will really go on from there.
Okay, great. Now that's a great segue to then, what career services, what does the career curriculum look like? So Sarah talked a little bit about that personal professional development from the student experience academic perspective. Can you shed some light, Carly, on what that means for the career coaching process?
Happy to do that, Naz. So similar to what Sarah was indicating, the first part of the process, at least with career services, does operate as a well-oiled machine, if you will. So we have a pre-MBA online curriculum that students really have access to as soon as they want to have access to it once they're admitted. But ultimately, when considering starting orientation, usually students are engaging with me one-on-one either before orientation or pretty intensively during the first part of orientation in a series of structured onboarding appointments so that I can get a clear sense of what students are looking for out of the MBA program, if that's changed maybe since the admissions interview, really overhauling the narrative provided on their resume, because almost nobody comes into our program with a resume that looks very similar to the one that they recruit with, either for internship or full-time, practicing interview skills and basically getting ready for career fairs. But after that series of onboarding appointments, things start to look a little different student by student in terms of what they need to prepare for the recruiting season, and what their success has looked like in talking with corporate recruiters. And so really the first part of the career process is quite structured and predefined, but once folks are fully onboarded, I'm working with them one-on-one at their own pace, depending on what their needs are, either for the full-time or internship search. And I probably should have said this earlier, Naz, but I'm the director of the career services for graduate students, but I also am the full-time MBA career coach, which means that I work one-on-one with all of the students who are enrolled in our small full-time format.
Great. Now, obviously, you kind of work with these students very closely. Can you maybe give some highlight about some of the big industries or the types of roles that a typical MBA student is looking to get into?
Sure.
Sorry.
Yeah, no problem. So we have a small program. So that means year on year, just depending on the interest of the students that we admit, our industry breakdown by percentage can change pretty dramatically, again, because we're a small program. As an admissions committee, we look for really sharp, talented, hardworking students, and we don't necessarily define how many consultants we say we want to put into the market every year. Rather, we want to follow what the desires are of those students. That being said, our largest percentages do tend to show up within consulting, tech, CPG, and then by function, our students predominantly go into marketing, finance, human capital, operations, supply chain, but we do have one-offs within other functions every year as well, including IT. So when we think about, what doors this program can open, it's really great as a candidate to do your research on where we have had company relationships and have had placements, but also to be prepared to be a trailblazer, if you will, within new industries and companies, because we love connecting students with not just full-time alumni, but also online and professional alumni, as well as alumni from the overall Gator Nation. That's a real advantage of our program. And I think we've alluded to that in this conversation so far, but we have this very unique position of being a really small curated program with the resources of a larger university. So I'm also an alum, I should have said that, of the full-time 2-year MBA program. So I experienced that as a student, and it did change my life. So I'm an alum, Demetra, who says that as well. And so much so that when the call came to return here as a staff member, I really jumped on the opportunity, because this is a program, an MBA program like no other in the country. And it's a really exciting team and program to be a part of.
So Carly, in talking about the most recent class, the class of 2021, do you mind shedding some light on the basic career statistics of that group?
Yes, Naz, and I appreciate you asking this question. The class of 21 really broke records for the full-time MBA program in terms of placement. And I think that is an indication of how hard the class of 21 worked, as well as how much our recent alum really supported them in their networking efforts and their preparation for interviews with firms and things of that nature. So for the first time ever, we exceeded 90% of students who accepted offers at graduation, which was really exciting. That's a figure that you normally see closer to 3 months out. So we're at 91.3% of students who've accepted full-time offers at graduation. And then at 3 months out, over 97% of our students who graduated from our full-time program in the class of 21 had accepted an offer. This, coupled with a really exciting statistic, which is 100% of the students who graduated in the class of 21 received full-time offers, is again just a testament to how hard the students worked throughout the program, how career-oriented all of our offerings are here at the Worthington College of Business, and the alum support system that's in place that help those students achieve really great full-time outcomes.
Great. That is amazing news. Congrats, Carly. That's huge for the MBA program and the Warrington College of Business. So great. Thank you so much.
And Carly, it's a testament to the amazing career services team that we have in Warrington as well.
Here's a question for anybody who wants to answer it. How many UFMBA alums are we up to at this point? Anybody guess? We are over 12,000. How exciting is that? And we have over 80,000 Warrington alums and 500,000 Gators growing out there. So that is a testament to how large our alumni is. And you know, I think that Dean Meacher brought up a great point, is that our students are excited when they're enrolled in the program, but that excitement doesn't end when they graduate. It continues far beyond. And you know, year after year, we continue to have students engage with us in a multitude of ways. And we're always happy to bring those students back and incorporate them into any way that makes sense for them. And in fact, you know, as the admissions team, as we're thinking about our students, you know, and looking at prospective students and looking at applications, part of what we also are assessing is how well will this student be, you know, be in terms of a brand ambassador for years to come. And so a lot of this curating of each of our classes boils down to not only, you know, can we manage the expectation of this student's success, but also how will they continue to add value to the larger UF and MBA and Warrington brand. So John, I'm going to throw this next question to you. You know, so thinking about our MBA program, what do you think, you know, is the differentiator? Why should somebody choose UFMBA over any other school?
I think it's a very common theme that we've talked about here, both from the student affairs standpoint, with being able to have some input into what it is you want from your experience, from Carly's perspective in business career services, about what it is that is you want to do and how we can align you with what we have, or be a trailblazer in something new. But I like to say that the thing that makes UF special is the individuals. And we talk about that a lot of times in size. It's not uncommon to find material out there for us talking about how it's important to have a small MBA cohort. And we really do believe that. But I think that what differentiates us is that we are a personal program. And part of that is helped by being small cohorts. We are able to put staff members, whether it's student affairs or business career services, in those conversations on a one-to-one basis that can be impactful and that can really change the trajectory of your experience in the program and beyond. And we see that out every day. People become smarter and better at understanding the business concepts. They become well coached to be able to go out there and identify opportunities that they think will be good fits for them, to earn offers from those opportunities, and to go on and be successful. And that's one of the things that I have the privilege of getting when I talk to alumni. Is we hear a lot about students who come in, they take classes, they get a good job. That's kind of the basics of what we do, right? If we're doing that every day, we're doing our jobs really, really well, right? You get admitted, quality students, they have a good academic experience, they get good professional development and career services, and they get a job. But it goes beyond that. It's more than just getting a job. It's being confident when you get there. It's being prepared to achieve the results that your organizations expect of you, to have that ability to advance. And I get a lot of that in my position as director, that the students who think they were ready didn't realize how ready they were, because they were like, oh, they coached me up on how to get a job. But it's more than that. It's, you know, what you need to know to be successful. And I have plenty of alums that talk to me, and they tell me about how they didn't realize how much they knew until 3 or 4 years down the line. They need to apply something that they've learned several years ago. And that's the kind of experience that we hope everybody has. And part of that comes because they're committed to it. They're an active participant in creating that experience. And in a big program where you've got to do things at scale, or you're in big classes, or you're one of a couple of hundred or 1,000 people, it's harder and harder to do. And we've put a lot of focus on having the full-time program is small. All of our other programs in the portfolio are also small. And we get that portfolio effect without losing the individual identities of those small cohorts and those programs that are really designed around the individual outcomes.
Great. I'm going to take a moment and pivot to talking a little bit about the admissions process and what we're really looking for in applicants, because I think that was a great segue, right? And I think that if you all are listening, hopefully we've jazzed you about, you know, why UFMBA, but let's talk a little bit about the admissions process. And you know, the process itself, it's fairly straightforward. You're going to submit the UF graduate school application, or specific MBA application. You're going to supply us with a resume and your 2 professional letters of recommendation, test score. You're going to get us your transcripts, official copies of your transcripts. And those are all kind of the steps that you're going to work through. But what I want to do is kind of ask each of you a little bit more insight as to what you think good advice for an applicant, based off of your area. So Carly, I'm going to ask you in terms of like, the CV or their resume, like what are some things that they should highlight? Sarah, obviously, we have small class sizes, so we want to make sure that cultural fit is there. And what does kind of that entail? So from both the student affairs and the career coaching perspective, what advice would you give to a prospective student as they're about to submit their application? Carla, I'll let you go first.
Sure, no problem. So I'll start with the resume piece, and let me start out by reiterating something that I said earlier. Your resume, if you're admitted into our program, is definitely going to change pretty significantly while you're being onboarded through the process. So nobody's expected to have a perfect resume coming into the program by any means. But some common pitfalls that I do see in UFMBA applicants is that the resume or CV, if you will, ends up being, a dozen or 15 or more pages. And what that tells me is that you haven't reflected yet on what are some of the most relevant experiences within the different organizations that you've had, either private sector, nonprofit, even extracurricular, if you're reflecting back on your undergraduate experience. And that's something that we're going to ask you to do throughout the MBA program, not only within career services, but John was indicating earlier, you've got to be able to make decisions and synthesize data to communicate only the most important pieces. So one of the common pitfalls that I see on a resume is that you assume, more is more, and that isn't always the case. Also, as you think about, and this is a little bit tactical on the resume, but as you think about what you include within a particular organization, prioritize what you feel like is the most relevant or meaningful accomplishment that you've had within a role. So that doesn't mean that you have to give us the entire job description, but rather focus on accomplishments that you've had within a particular role. And then finally, I would say, as you think about prioritizing content over the resume, on the resume versus format, while the look and feel of a document is really important, trying to make as much as you can of the actual pages and content of the bullets is really most important for us. Because as you'll see in our program, we tend to take a fairly straightforward approach to communicating work experience and work accomplishments versus, finding the right design or color or look and feel of the resume.
Okay, great. And Sarah, what about you?
Sure. I think what I'll add is, if we think about the classroom experience or the student experience, there are some things that are can't really be taught, or there are areas or items you might be looking for within a student characteristic wise, self-awareness, drive, motivation, coachability. If you think about an MBA, there's so much of it that is going to be a team experience. So we want to make sure that we're bringing in students who will be motivated, who are excited to learn from others, to learn from students, to learn from faculty, but then also know that others are going to be learning from them. And it's really kind of a hand-in-hand experience. And I often tell students, if you put in the effort, if you put in the work, others around you are going to be doing the same, and you'll hit those milestones together, and the victory will be all of your victories to celebrate, as you really are, a collective unit here, or a tight-knit family to some degree. So those are the types of characteristics. And if there's ways that students can tell their stories in the application process that can, cover some of that and talk about how they've learned and grown in a team atmosphere, a team environment, I think that's what we're looking for, to see how that student would transfer well into an MBA program here at the University of Florida.
No, that's great. Thank you. And for, just all of you to be aware of, so you do the online application, you get us your materials. All candidates that are competitive are automatically invited to an interview. That interview is inclusive of the admissions team, career services, as well as our student affairs team. So you're going to be interviewed by, all the key stakeholders that are involved with making this MBA experience a fantastic one. And so as part of that, it's really kind of fine tuning, kind of what it is that you want to do. And hopefully you've done some of that soul searching beforehand, but that's something that we really try to assess of the candidate. Now, let's assume that you're admitted. Yay, congrats, right? John, can you tell me a little bit about these scholarship opportunities that we offer?
Absolutely. So we are very excited to be able to offer scholarships to everybody who comes into the full-time MBA program. And for the most part, they are designed to be merit-based scholarships. So we're looking at people and what they bring into the program. Pretty much everybody in our 2-year program has that level of combination of work experience, test score, undergraduate GPA, and other experiences that make them well-rounded. And we see that most of them are fully scholarshiped. The other 2 formats, the all majors and the business majors, like I said, are also getting generous scholarships. They're going to vary a little bit more though, based on the number of the number of credits and things like that. So we're looking at different things when we look at those because of the way we fill out those classes. But it is safe to say that everybody that comes into the program does receive some form of scholarship. Basically, nobody is below 50%, and everybody tends to average out much closer to full by the time they get all the way around to it, because we've got a lot of support from the alums and from the endowments that we have and the scholarships that we have in existence to help students pursue their goals there. And that's one of those things that, since Dean Mitra's here and I can say these things without him taking it back, is that we're always committed to bringing the best possible talent. And so I don't have a sense that that is going to be a problem. So if there's a person out there who's the right fit for the MBA program and there's a scholarship they need to get here, we'll figure out a way to make that work.
Great, awesome. Dean Mitra, if you had to talk to a young professional thinking about applying to business school, what words of wisdom would you provide?
Sure, Naz. There are obviously some obvious things to look at, like rankings and reputation, but I'll give you 4 which are not so obvious. The first is, look at faculty research. And you might wonder, well, why should that be important? The reason it's important is because you want to learn from true experts, especially in emerging areas. If you're thinking about finance and marketing and accounting, the core sort of MBA content, you probably don't need to focus on faculty research. But if you're thinking about more emerging areas within those disciplines, faculty research is important. And that's something important to look at. The second is, look at the size of the program. Many of you mentioned this before. Size, being in a large program has some networking benefits for sure, but being in a small program has many other benefits. You're not a number. Faculty and staff know you. You get special attention. And at UF, one of the benefits is that even though we have a small full-time MBA program, we graduate 2,500 students a year from the Warrington College. About half of those are graduate students in our various specialized masters, as well as our various other format MBA programs. And so you do have the networking opportunity, but you have the benefit of small class size. And you can also take classes with our specialized master students. So you become part of that cross-functional team that you're likely to see in the real world. After all, in the real world, you're never going to work in a team which is all full-time MBA students. And then, also look at innovative coursework. Basic coursework, MBA coursework is really a commodity. I mean, you can get a lot of the basic accounting, finance by listening to online material. But does the curriculum focus on innovative areas? And I think our focus on AI and analytics, as well as the various specialized master's programs that we have in international business, real estate, business analytics, and various others, gives you that opportunity to take courses that you may not have thought of before you join the program. And then the final thing I would say, this is a little hard to do, but look at the career services and student services groups. And I say this is a little hard to do because it's beyond numbers. It's not just about percent placed or average salary. It's about the help that they would provide to you. And really the only way you can do that effectively is by talking to current students or talking to someone like Carly or Sarah to understand what's different about this particular MBA program. I think if you do that, you will see that Warrington and UF is truly different.
No, absolutely. Thank you. And I love that. And I definitely think that having those four, things to start thinking about, even as a prospective student, is really important because there's so many MBA programs out there. How do you determine which one is the right fit for you? And I think that was, a fantastic way to summarize how somebody can start narrowing down, those choices and hopefully landing, on a program that makes most sense for them. And hopefully it will be UFMBA, but if it's not, obviously we wish everybody, astronomical success. And so my last question to everybody would be, if you had to choose one thing to highlight about the UFMBA program that makes it special, you can bring back, small class size or alumni, whatever you think is the one thing that makes our program so unique, what would it be? And Sarah, I'm going to start with you this go around. Is that okay? You're ready for that?
That's, of course, put me here first. I think, so Carly mentioned earlier that when a student is admitted to the program, the onboarding process with Career Services starts even before orientation, and at orientation and beyond. And I think what makes us a little bit different, and I think students are surprised, is when I begin advising appointments and have conversations with them, and I ask them first and foremost, well, let's backtrack. Tell me about your background. Tell me about why you're here. Tell me about your conversations with Carly. How are things going? The types of roles you're considering, and bring me up to speed. And then let's talk about classes, because there's no point in having a student select curriculum, select classes without knowing their end goal. And a lot of times titles of a class can be misleading. They might read something and have not, spent time diving into the syllabus. So I take pride in the fact that I want to work in collaboration with the whole team here to help guide the student and help, shape their academic experience as best we can to make sure that the value's there, that the time is well spent. And I think that's what sets us apart. I think there's a lot of other programs out there where the students, they come in, they start taking the classes, they hit the ground running, and they haven't spent that time exploring with Career Services and then exploring how they can tie all that together to their academic journey.
Great, thank you. Carly, you're up next.
Yeah, I'll jump in. Thanks for that, Sarah. I think that was really good. I would say it's grit. So in addition to everything that Sarah just indicated, one of the things that we really look for throughout the application process are folks who work to overcome challenges, to achieve whatever objective they were after, because it takes a lot of grit to be successful within any full-time MBA program, and I would argue in ours as well. We take career really seriously, as Sarah has indicated, and sometimes I say that our careers curriculum is the most important class that you'll never take, because it's not an official class, but rather is just as critical as any of the academic pursuits and that you'll make when you're in our program. But some of you on this call may have heard this story before, so if you have, my apologies. But one of the things I think that indicates how well known that is, that grit is something that we look for in our program, is conversation within the last year and a half that I had with a C-level executive for a very well-known CPG firm. And he told me, Carly, I recruit UFMBA students alongside of Ivies and sometimes instead of Ivies, because your students really know how to pull up their sleeves and get the job done. And I thought that was just a really impressive compliment to our program, and obviously to the leadership of the program as well. But I think grit is something that we look for in our applicants and then train for even more when you're in either our 1 year or our 2 year full-time program.
Great, thank you. John, what would you say a hallmark of the program is?
I think a hallmark of the program is the staff, and you hear it right there from Sarah and from Carly, who talk about the things that they think about, the things that their team thinks about when they're working on how to put this experience together for our students. And that's one of the things that, from my vantage point, really makes the UFMBA program special, is we have a dedicated group of staff who are here, who are committed, who want the outcomes for the students, who want to make sure that the experience is straightforward and helpful and beneficial. And I think there are probably a lot of folks out there who go to their programs and do their jobs, and that's a big part of it. But I see every day from our staff the amount of passion that they have for what they do for the students and for the overall experience. And I talked a little bit about earlier how you kind of want to move from being a doer to being more of a people and a project manager. And that's where I'm at in my arc, right? So I started out here with the MBA program, doing calendars and schedules, and I realized the work that went into all that. And as I moved through, it's really been a pleasure for me to watch the staff grow together, to watch them. And I mean, I say them, there's 3 of you now, as you're included in this, obviously, in the call, but to see how they work together, how everybody comes to work toward that common goal for the students is really very exciting for me. And I think that's a big hallmark of the program, because we are so small. You do see the staff, you do interact with them as much as you do the students. And so having that talented staff, that passionate staff, is a big part of what makes UFMBA special.
Awesome. Great. Sabi, I don't know if you had anything left that you wanted to add there too.
The first thing I would say is that I completely agree with John. I could not agree more. We just have phenomenal career as well as student services staff, and it's not something that you can see from outside, but you really got to interact with us to realize that. I'll summarize by saying that it's just fun to be a business gator. It's fun to go to football games. It's fun to tailgate. It's a family that cares.
I love that. Everybody just hopefully wants to be a Gator, right? So with that, go Gators. Yes, exactly. I'm going to close this out. Thank you all so much for spending this time with me. And hopefully all of you watching this will get more insight about why it is that UFMBA is so special. Please, let's continue this conversation. Reach out to either myself or anybody on my team. We're here to help you achieve your goals. And with that, I hope you all have a great day, and go Gators.